Good morning, everyone. We are at such a gorgeous location. Alex Denis is taking a tour of George Washington's New York. We've been throughout a number of locations, right? In New York City, also Washington Heights, and now we are at Philipse Manor State Historic Site. Please take a look at this. It's such a gorgeous location. This is in Yonkers, New York. It's my hometown too, so we are going to take you inside. And Alex, it's pretty impressive, right?
And listen, this is all in Mary's debut novel. She's been doing all of this research and been telling us about all of these really historical, important spots right here in our hometown.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible when you think about it. So the family that own this gorgeous location, and I'll take you around so you can see. They owned 250,000 acres of property all along the Hudson River, and that is from Harlem north. You just keep looking and you would have seen the Philipse property. This location was also the original city hall in the 1800s, so you can see this beautiful statue that is here on this location. These cannons are here, and that was all placed when this was the City Hall of Yonkers. But 100 years before that, it was the home to the Philipse family, and they were the richest family in colonial America.
Another cannon.
Everywhere you look is history. It's kind of incredible that history is hidden in every hometown, just waiting to be discovered. So
you have a lot of people joining you too.
Oh, terrific.
And Desiree, and who else?
Hi, Robert. Hi, Desiree.
Carmen,
and please feel free to ask me anything about the research, and Alex too, because she's been on this journey with me, so she knows quite a bit. We were actually in a basement together looking through old documents, right?
It was unbelievable to think that we were touching papers from like the
1700s. Just remarkable. So take a look at this. I mean, even when you look at these old doors, these were split in two. So you could just open the top if you would like, or open the whole door. And then we're going to go inside. It's really spectacular in here. It really was the home to social entertainment in New York, and this was in the 1700s. So just looking at the architecture is beautiful, but basically all of this was their estate, and there were beautiful manicured gardens. And if you just look a little further off behind the manor, you'll see the Hudson River. So it's really pretty glorious when you take a look at it. So we want to give you a look inside. What do you say? Should we head inside? Okay, come on in, come on in.
Hey Josh, hi Lisa.
Hi Lisa.
David, you have a lot of people joining you.
Oh, terrific. So glad you're joining us. So come on in. Robert, how are you?
Oh, great. How are you?
We're on Facebook Live, so
Hi,
folks are joining us, and maybe you can give us a little tour of this site.
Absolutely.
So first, let me say this is Robert Anthony Lee, and Lee sounds quite familiar.
Yes.
Any connection?
We are a Lee descendant through his uncle, so I have the name to match the job right now for sure.
Oh, perfect. Well, this house is just spectacular, and it was the centerpiece of the research that I did for Dear George, Dear Mary, and this was Mary Philipse's home.
Yes, it was.
So you'll show us around,
yeah, let's
right?
go take a look around.
This is a historic site, and it's a museum now.
Correct. Yeah. So we are a New York State Historic Site. We've been open to the public since 1912, so over 100 years we've been accessible by the public. But it's gone through many iterations. This started out as a simple two-story structure, eventually went on to becoming the seat of Philipsburg Manor, and ultimately becoming City Hall. So when we go through the house, we're going to see a lot of different eras being presented, just because we have hundreds and hundreds of years of history.
Yes, centuries.
Taking a look, you can kind of see the house.
Take a look over here. Let me just take you in here. There are a number of exhibits, and I think you'll love seeing the artifacts that some of them were discovered on the property.
Absolutely, yes.
What are these, playing cards?
Yeah.
Isn't that neat?
Oh my gosh.
Didn't they play Whisk back then? I remember researching that for the book.
Yeah, now, and a lot of these artifacts are done through our archaeological digs here on the property. Because we have so much history to get through, you are going to see these different eras come about, just because this has been the focal point of downtown Yonkers for almost 1,000 years.
Wow,
It started out as Lenape Fishing Village, eventually became a house for the Philipse family, becoming the seat of Philipsburg Manor, and then eventually City Hall. So this area in downtown Yonkers has always been a focal point.
I just love looking at the specifics of the detail in the wallpaper, and I know you went back to look to determine what was underneath the layers of paint and everything. It's really amazing when you do that type of research.
Oh,
how
absolutely.
extensive that is.
And a lot of rabbit holes, as I'm sure
I'm
you
sure.
found out in your research. It's one thing where you have things that are documented that's easily followed. Is another thing when you peel back a layer and there's a whole other story you have to uncover now.
Wasn't that something? I mean, just you keep on looking and looking and you just be amazed at what you can actually find. Would you mind taking us into what was the living room, I guess you would call it? And it was actually a room that was used for a wedding, and the wedding took place in here, and I use this as the setting for a number of pieces in the book. So I just want you to take a look in here, because these are Rococo stylings that were done in the 1700s, right? When you take a look at the ceiling, it was just really remarkable. So tell us about this room.
Sure. So this room was first built in 1745 and then later redone in the early 1750s when the entire north wing was built. Most of this room was built in anticipation for the inevitable wedding of Mary Philipse.
Wow.
So at the time, this would have been considered the formal parlor, which is where a family would put their best furnishings, put the most amount of money in. So when you take a look around, one of the things that really stands out in this room is, if you kind of direct your eyes up top,
it's just incredible.
It's a papier-mâché Rococo ceiling. Now, this is one of the only two that are left in the country, and it is papier-mâché. You can put your finger right through it.
Okay.
Now, if you take a look in some of the decorations, you're going to notice a lot of outdoor vegetation being brought in, and that was just a very common style.
Yeah, come take a look right up close here. Isn't it just gorgeous?
Now, a lot of these decorations are based off of the Della Robbia artists. They were Italian Renaissance artists that focused on bringing outdoor vegetation inside as decoration. So the whole idea and concept of this room is to be educated, enlightened, forward-thinking. So that's why they really wanted to incorporate nature, as well as you're going to notice the two portraits. Up top over here, Sir Alexander Pope, the first professional poet in England. So the whole idea is, again, educated, forward-thinking, enlightened family. Mm-hmm. And then on the other side over here, Sir Isaac Newton, the father of science. So essentially they're showing off.
Talks about the Philipses a number of times. So that was really quite fascinating to see it in his handwriting. And to read through the transcripts of his family. Portraits are throughout this room. So this would have been Mary's
III, and ultimately it would be Frederick III who would inherit the property. It would not be Mary.
Yeah.
So you're looking at about 90 years of Philipse males owning and running this property.
Terrific.
So I'm not going to go too far because connection starts to break a little bit, but people are really curious. You've got Ken saying hi, John,
hi, everybody.
Randy, a lot of people. You actually have someone that's going to be coming here for a school tour on Friday.
Oh, excellent.
Yeah, Robert will be here too.
Fantastic.
So. Fantastic. I wanted to show everyone something.
By any chance, the question Robert had was what year City Hall was here?
Yes, so we first, the city of, village of Yonkers was first incorporated in 1868. 4 years later, in 1872, it incorporated as a city, and that's when we became City Hall. So we served in that interim as Village Hall, but realistically, we were City Hall from about 1872 up until about 1910 when the new City Hall was built.
Terrific.
And another viewer, Alan, that's watching, said the portraits on the ceiling remind him, like, hey, early Facebook.
Right here for 1 second. You can stay right there because Robert and I had so much fun doing the research, and I obtained this gorgeous Harper's New Monthly. This was from 1896, and there's a specific article that I was looking for in my research because I'm going to show you why it was so important to me. There was this gorgeous image, and it says Washington and Mary Philipse, and I was really fascinated by this. And the article is written by Woodrow Wilson, and this beautiful image was commissioned, and Howard Pyle created it. It's in storage right now in Boston. But we were looking at this, Robert, because we found this pretty fascinating, right?
Pretty recognizable too.
Yeah, so tell me what you were thinking when you looked at it.
Well, based on this, and if you kind of take a look around the room, each room has its own features to it. So when we took a quick look at this, we were pretty much able to pinpoint that between these two porticos was where it had to have been done. Now, obviously,
so either the here to take a look. Back then, it would have been called an interview, but today's we would call it a date between the two. And there are a number of references of dates between Mary Philipse and George Washington in history. So I just really adored this, and it was just fun looking at it with you. But there's so many references in the 1800s to Mary Philipse and her relationship with George Washington. And you know, we talked about it a number of times. The reason why I came up with it is because my husband's inauguration was right here at Philipse Manor, which was the original City Hall, and we always always knew it was like urban legend about this relationship. So digging in and finding that information was pretty exciting.
Oh, and for us as well. We always joke that we've been a museum for over 100 years, but we've never necessarily had the resources to dedicate to full-time archivists and historians to do this type of research. And we're eternally grateful for what you've been able to uncover.
Thank you so much. Well, you've been here with me doing it, so it's been really exciting. It's pretty remarkable when you think about how much Philipse Manor has done to maintain this history over the course of the years, and so many other sites as well. So we're forever thankful.
Everybody in the front that the bronze of the
come take a look at it. It's really gorgeous when you look at that. And please, feel free to ask any questions you might have as we walk along here, because it's not often we get Robert to do a live interview with us. So he has all the information. Ask him anything. So come on through. This would have been the dining room, by the way, and it was quite fancy too, because they had a huge kitchen and a whole full staff of workers. This was the grandest manor.
Yeah, and
it's the oldest building in Westchester, standing building.
Yep. 1682. Now, we could theoretically date it back about 10 years earlier, believed to be the earliest image of the Philipse property.
This is Philipse Manor right
Philipse
here.
Manor Hall right over here. And the one thing that people are going to notice is there's a river that runs directly next to us. Now, at the time, it was originally known as the Nepperhan River.
Oh, this here, right here.
Yeah, cuts right through here.
And isn't this gorgeous? This is the Palisades that you can look at now.
Yeah. Now, the Nepperhan River eventually took on a name that we all recognize nowadays, known now as the Sawmill River. And it got that name because of the industry that was being
th, but it's been a lot of fun to take a look at this, and this will then
have a couple people asking you how can they get it and when it does come out, so you just may want to explain that again.
Oh, sure. So the book will be released on the 19th of February, and really everywhere books are sold. You can get it, even an audiobook if you'd like, which was actually so much fun because we talked about it, finding the voice for George Washington and the voice for Mary Philipse. There are two narrators.
And meeting her too. I mean, just the excitement level.
Oh, yeah.
It's nice to see that it's not just us that are getting excited about this. It's really kind of taking on the entire city now.
So the narrator who plays Mary Philipse came to visit you, and you came through the site to really get a feel for it. So Marissa is just wonderful, and it was great that Marissa Collin came here and actually experienced it. Yeah. Most people don't think about that when they're listening to audiobooks, what's happening behind the scenes. So they really are going to those locations whenever there are whenever there is a location to really understand what it felt like, what it sounded like, and immerse yourself in that time. So so if you have any other questions, are you going to join me, Alex, finally?
I can.
Okay, please do.
There
we go. We'll come around here.
I think, too, it's worth, because some people are just not joining us, it's probably worth you taking us one more time outside.
Sure, let's take a look. Robert, do you want to come with us?
Sure, I'll be cool with everybody.
Tell us about these double doors.
Sure. So these are original to the household. They are Dutch doors. Now, the whole concept of the Dutch door essentially was to keep kids in and to keep animals out.
I need one in my house.
Obviously, when you're dealing with a family with the wealth of the Philipses, there is some showing off when it comes to the styles of the door, but for the most part, there was a practical use for them.
Okay.
This was a living, working manor, so there were needs to kind of keep animals out as well.
All right, let's go outside and just show them around. Maybe you could give us an idea about the architecture, too.
Perfect. People are saying thank you. They love your knowledge, Rob.
So give us an idea about the architecture of this place.
Sure. So as I mentioned, this had been around since about 1682, so it saw different iterations throughout its lifetime. What it is right now is essentially high-class Georgian architecture, essentially the epitome of pre-Revolutionary War architecture. You're not going to see a lot of the really ornate decorations just because this was lived in. Even after the Philipses sold the property, there's about 70 or 80 years of private But you still see some of the minor details. And actually, the last window you'll see throughout Yonkers. If you go through St. John's and a lot of the older buildings, Yonkers used this as a template as to what they were going to do with their architecture. So while some of the features are no longer here, when you go to other locations in Yonkers, you will see some of these architectural
That's
elements
so
as well.
fantastic. You know, when
Get farther back so people can see how.
when I found out in my research that the family, everything was on. So you can take a look and take a walk. But
Yeah,
it
I
is.
think it's absolutely stunning. And
It
what's
is.
fascinating to me too is that the Hudson.
It's
It's like right
gorgeous.
here.
I know.
You look
just
out the other side of the house, and you can absolutely see everything.
I know.
It's fascinating.
And
to
from
me.
the rooms in certain parts, it just the view must have just been glorious at that time. You know.
and now,
exactly.
even now, you
Even
walk
now.
through this home. And you step around the corner and you think like, oh my gosh, look
Yeah,
at this. Like,
exactly.
what year am I in?
I know.
And it's preserved beautifully.
It
So
takes you back. It
I
really
commend
does.
you for bringing awareness to all of this, all
Oh,
these sites.
sure.
She's like taking me on a tour, like
yeah,
a field trip
it's
with
so
Mary.
much fun. Next place, where are we going to go?
I
Give us
know.
ideas. We'd love to hear from you.
Yeah.
Thank you, everybody, for joining us.
Bye, guys.
Great to
Have a
see
great
you.
day.
Bye.